everything down to really empowering individual engineers. We invest in this huge testing framework, right? At any given point in time, there's not just one version of Facebook running in the world, right? There's probably tens of thousands of versions running because engineers here have the power to try out an idea and ship it to maybe 10,000 people or 100,000 people, and then they get a readout on how that version of what they did, whether it was a change to show better content in newsfeed or a UI change or some new feature, they get a readout on how that version performed compared to the baseline version of Facebook that we have on everything that we care about, how connected people are, how much people are sharing and how much they say that they're finding meaningful content, business metrics like how much revenue we make and engagement of the overall community. And, by running tens of thousands of different experiments and putting the power in people's hands to try all these different things, you can imagine we just make so much more progress than we could if every change had to be approved by me, right? Or every idea had to come from management. So I do think that there's something very deep about building this, learning culture and moving quickly towards that just helps you get ahead over time.
Welcome to How to Build the Future. Today our guest is Mark Zuckerberg. Mark, you've built one of the most influential companies in the history of the world, so we are especially excited that you are here.
I'm not sure where to go from there.
Well, why don't we start with just the early days of Facebook? Tell us what it was like when you started it.
Sure. So for me, the thing that I was really fascinated by, and always have been, is people, right, and how people work. When I was in college, I studied psychology and computer science. And, one of the things that you learn when you study psychology is that there are all these parts of the brain which are geared just towards understanding people, right? Understanding language, how to communicate with each other, understanding facial expressions, emotions, processing. Yet when I looked out at the internet, right, in 2004, which is when I was getting started, you can find almost anything else that you wanted, right? You could find news, movies, music, reference materials. But the thing that mattered the most to people, which was other people and like understanding what's going on with them, just wasn't there, right? And I think what was going on was that all that other content was just out there, able to be indexed by, search engines and other services. Yeah. But in order to understand what's going on with people, you needed to build tools that made it so that they could express what was going on with themselves. I wanted to figure out what courses to take, so I built this little website, Course Match, that that just made it so that you could enter what courses you were taking and you could click on them and see who else was in them. And it did all these correlations. So it told you people who took this course were likely to enjoy this course too. And, the thing that just struck me from the beginning is, people would just spend hours clicking through here are the courses that people are taking. And wow, isn't it interesting that this person is interested in these things? And it was just text, right? There's nothing that was like super interesting there, but that just struck me as, people have this deep thirst to understand what's going on with those around them. And, there were probably, 10 other things like that I built when I was at Harvard before I actually got around to building the first version of Facebook that kind of added a lot of these things together.
So as you look back, is there something that made Facebook different from the other projects that you had built that allowed it to turn into the company it is today?
Well, for one, I think we kept going, right? So, the others, Course Match and, just the other different crowdsourced tools, they kind of served their purpose and then we were done. Whereas with Facebook, there was just such, people loved it, right? And had such an intensity of using it. I think within a couple of weeks, 2/3 of students at Harvard were using it. And all these other students at MIT and other local universities were writing in asking us if we could open up Facebook at their school. So we kind of just followed that, right? And, again, I didn't set out and, my roommates didn't set out to build a service that we were going to turn into a company, but we just kind of followed what people wanted. And that led us to expand it to all these other schools and eventually beyond schools. And to, at some point, once we'd hired a bunch of people, we decided to turn it into a company and go for this mission of connecting the world. But that's not where we started.
As you